in about a week's time, qualifying would have already happened, and you're watching this knowing who is actually qualified where for the first race of the 2020 season. So tell us below, just real quick, because as we're recording this, we've seen no on-track action as of yet. So we could stick a little pound bet on or something like that, and maybe win a couple of grand. We're not going halves, by the way, on that note. But no, guys, as we've said many times before, last time we said this, it didn't happen, but Formula One is almost back in 2020, and we are so excited. Really are. So what we're going to be doing today then is just kind of previewing the season, giving our thoughts as well, and we're not going to do any standing predictions because we already did that way back in February, just before pre-season testing even started. We wanted to kind of leave that kind of unique thing that we don't want any on-track action to influence our decisions. What happens in the standings come the end of the season. So like I said, we'll just be talking about pre-season, giving you maybe our thoughts again of a recap of what's been going down, maybe who we think will be the leading protagonists into the first race of the season, maybe some sort of updates of what's been happening whilst the cars have been testing, let's say almost essentially testing with the old cars, the 2018 cars, let's say, and of course the new cars in 2020. So yeah, pre-season felt like an age ago. It really did. Even though it was all the way back in February, it still feels like a long time ago. But I can guarantee you one thing, guys, when those lights go out, instantly you'll be like, wow, that was a very short winter, wasn't it? Which in fact, guys, we actually still are in the winter break, if you think about it. And it's 25 degrees outside. Warm winter. Global warming? Yeah, I think it is. But no, honestly, guys, really I'm excited. So, Lyle, F1 in 2020, it is nearly upon us. It's so good to say that. It really is. So let's start with maybe who we think is the front runner in the coming up into the first race of Australia, and of course the second race essentially, which will happen a week later. Who are you thinking is going to be kind of the main, like I said, the front runners, the protagonists who will be at the front, maybe in qualifying and the race coming into the first race of the season?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's winter break, we're still in, it's crazy. So, obviously, Lewis Hamilton, first name they have to put out there. I don't think anyone could say that he's not going to be on form. He's not going to be ferocious, he's not going to be fired up. He's going for the big result. Actually, if anything, this has been a few years in the making. I think probably when we got to about 2017, it was the realisation for Lewis that, yes, I can get to this position, of course, going for 7, going, 0491, of course, overtaking that. You can overtake the wins of Michael, obviously you can match Michael in terms of a championship. It's been a long time coming for Lewis. He's sat behind, he's been patient, of course, getting all of his championships and admirations of wins and things like that in the way. But now he's finally going for it. He said that this will be a very challenging season. He said one of the most challenging of his whole career, but obviously you'll say that probably about all of them. That's the thing, he can go for these results now. Again, matching 91 will be very hard. I think he's around 7 or 8 races away. Being in this weird season, which of course we only have 8 rounds confirmed at the moment, it's unlikely that it will be cancelled. It will cease after 8 races, but if that's the case, Lewis has to almost win all of them to match 91 in this season. But he could definitely get the World Championship, as obviously we are going to be still in a 2020 FIA World Championship season standings, and of course a champion at the end. Lewis is going to be the front runner, the protagonist, the most favourite driver, and of course in that Mercedes Jordan, the W11, there is no stopping him. I mean, you can chuck around loads of other contenders, of course. There's Max Verstappen, there's Charles Leclerc, there's Valtteri Bottas, but Lewis in that Mercedes, yes, it is a little bit same old, but as I say, don't fix what's not broken, whatever they say. Lewis has got the best car, he's got the best machinery, and he is the best driver on the grid right now. He is gonna, we said this to World Championship, and of course we're not saying our predictions again, but we already have. Lewis is going to win the World Championship for me. There is no stopping him. And I mean, as I say, we don't know all the races, so we can't say which race he is going to win and which race he isn't going to win. It is going to be a challenge for him. We are going to some tracks like Hungary that he does love, and of course the British Grand Prix Silverstone as well. It might not be the best track for him. He obviously hasn't had a clean sweep like he has, maybe in the past, or that he'd wanted to. But obviously the home fans will get behind him. Unfortunately, there is going to be no fans getting behind him this year, but still he will like to be there. As I say, he's going to absolutely, take this season and win 7 like he wants to. The next contender, probably the biggest one for him is going to be Max Verstappen. There's been a lot of hype, a lot of talk about this guy, but I think this year is his season. For me, Max he will obviously have a good season in Formula One. He'll have a good career in Formula One, not just one season. But this season is definitely his. I think this is his best chance. It's more of a sprint. We are starting with Austria back-to-back, which could be incredible for him. I mean, as I say, we know how fast that Red Bull is. He had a good season last year. He's got an incredible following. He will be going into this season very, very strong as well. Knowing about his brand new contract at Red Bull Racing, of course, when he did race last year, he was under the impression that he would be out of contract at the end of this year. So now he's contracted until 2023. He's definitely the born leader. He is going to have the best season. And I think he will be the biggest challenger to Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas, Charles Leclerc, definitely in the mix. But the one man I don't think, Jordan, will be Sebastian Vettel. The thing about him, I just don't think he'll be there. Last season at Ferrari, we've had our talk. We've said where he's going to go at the end of 2020. See, Carlos Sainz does replace him at the end of this year into next year. Obviously, partnering Charles at Ferrari. But yeah, I just don't think he'll be at the front. So that is my 4 contenders. Lewis, to be honest, actually could be in that position as well. Obviously, I do think Valtteri will have a good season. But you could say, Hamilton world champion, Verstappen second, Bottas third, and Leclerc fourth. And even it could be a very spicy battle between Bottas and Charles Leclerc. Depends how Ferrari do on the strategy. I do think they'll have a good season this year. But Mercedes and Hamilton, there's just no denying it, Jordan. And, we put out that post on Twitter, a few days ago, I think it was, about that, that joke about, Mercedes 1-2, well, it's part of the sun, but let's go home now, what are we waiting for? But yeah. I can't see that not happening. I mean, of course, we'd love to see that. I assume, it's better than no Formula 1 at all, but I just can't see Mercedes not being the 1-2, Mercedes not being the strongest team, with occasional frequent wins by, Red Bull or Ferrari, but I just can't see Mercedes not being on top. So, John, what do you think, contenders? Who do you think is going to be the main man? I guess you could even chuck in a cheeky prediction there, because I've just said mine, champion to fourth. Didn't mean to, but, there you go. And, I mean, just also Mercedes as well. Hamilton, what his chances? Are they better? Are they worse? What about Lewis this year? And, of course, your predictions for this season.
Well, certainly you can't shy away from the fact that Mercedes are going to be the favourites coming into this season. They've won the last 6 championships. It's been an incredible ride so far, and there's plenty more to come. Absolutely, they looked very consistent in testing, as they always did. I think they did the most mileage, the most laps, I think they set the fastest lap time. They have got DAS as well, and actually, I'll discuss DAS a little bit, because obviously that was a big talking point in testing, because testing didn't really throw up any big surprises. There was crashes, there was driver retirements and what have you. Of course, Lewis Hamilton had a bit of a hiccup as well with his power unit, but DAS was a big talking point, and I think as well that's not going to be a big. It's not going to be a big speed advantage on the Mercedes, in case anyone's kind of probably forgotten about it, because it's been a long time since we have probably discussed F1 2020, and when that Mercedes is going down the start finish straight in practice, and he pulls back on the steering wheel, the dual axis system it's called, DAS. People will go, oh yeah, DAS, I forgot about that. Yeah, remember
DAS is cool.
Yeah. Oh my god, wow. Remember when we were talking about DAS? Wow, they were the days. Anyways, but I think that's just more down to helping tyre wear, which was I think is always helpful for Formula 1 teams. Mercedes weren't a team that really struggled with tyre wear, but if they can save trying to go an extra 2 or 3 laps further than they did the previous year on a set of tyres, it will give them a really big advantage, and have fresher tyres towards the end, in a way making them quicker, but not as a real speed advantage. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference, but I think in certain tracks it could help them significantly. But moving away from DAS before I start another big debate, of course their challengers are going to be Red Bull, absolutely, because Red Bull they've been looking better each season as the years have been progressing. 2019 could have been a really good year, however Gasly did struggle. Then of course Albon did a pretty good job, but the damage was already done. Ferrari had already secured second place. And I think Red Bull are looking optimistic. They are, of course, 2 races in Austria, which will suit their car well. Verstappen has won there the past 2 years. But I suppose, but that's the thing though, you don't know what the cars are going to be like with certain tracks, because for all we know, the Red Bull, they could have changed something on the Red Bull, and it could be really, really bad on the car. And we could see this in practice and go, hang on a minute, Red Bull are like a second off the pace. What's going on here? So that's the surprise. We're just talking about testing, and Red Bull were one of the strong guns in testing, no real problems. A few spins from Verstappen and a few hiccups here and there, but other than that, it looked pretty solid, pretty reliable, and pretty quick. So yeah, I think it's looking good for Red Bull. Of course, Ferrari is a team where we are still kind of, what's going on with Ferrari? Are they sandbagging? Are they not? I think we're trying to be optimistic and saying that they're sandbagging, but from what I'm hearing from Maranello and Binotto and Vettel and the whole situation, I don't think it's going to be a good season from Ferrari. I just don't know what's going on over there. I could be completely wrong with this, and they could throw up and just be at the top all of a sudden, which it has happened before. I mean, there's been a few years over the years where we've seen Red Bull struggle, and of course Mercedes go, maybe they're not going to be as good, but rock up the first race of the season, and boom, they've just locked out the front row in qualifying, set fastest lap 1-2, and see you later, guys. We're off until next year. So that could easily happen. But for me, I'm concerned about Ferrari. I don't think that they'll be kind of maybe caught from the midfield teams by anybody, but you've got to look over your shoulder and think that I can't see it being a really good year from Ferrari, and of course Sebastian Vettel and even Charles Leclerc in that sense. I think Leclerc will probably finish ahead of Vettel, purely because that he's got that deal behind him. He can relax. Leclerc has had 1 year at Ferrari already. This will be his 3rd year in Formula 1. More relaxed. He'll have Ferrari's backing more than ever before, so that'll spur Leclerc on to unleash his proper talent, maybe. So, but again, I could be wrong. Vettel could go, you know what, let's go out with a bang. He could retire, he could have a year out or whatever, and go out and leave Ferrari on a real high. So Vettel could be a one to watch this season. But if you take away, and to be fair, yeah, I would easily say, I think I said Hamilton is champion, and I'm not going to change that whatsoever. So that's kind of, the top 3 kind of covered. So let's take a look at the midfield almost essentially coming into the season. You've got, of course, McLaren, who finished 4th, had a really, really good season with Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. Those drivers are now retained for this season. Renault struggled a lot. They've got Esteban Ocon instead of Hulkenberg. Ricciardo is there for one last year before he makes that switch to McLaren for 2021. And of course, you've got Racing Point, or Tracing Point, depending on how you want to call them, or Force India, Spiker, or whatever you want to call them. And of course there'll be Aston Martin next year. So Racing Point as well, when they unleashed their car in testing, which looked exactly like the W10, everyone was like, okay, this is interesting. A few people went straight on Twitter and just went, this is wrong, you can't copy this and you can't copy that. As far as I'm aware, as long as no data was transferred from Mercedes to Racing Point, it is perfectly legal. So Racing Point have just adopted the saying of, well, if we can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
And I'm up for that. Come on, Racing Point. They're going to be a one to watch, definitely coming into the 2020 season, especially for the first 8 races, because the W10 was a brilliant car. Let's face it. It did have a lot of problems with cooling, if I remember, which did hinder them at the Red Bull ring. Which is why they were well off the pace, and Red Bull and Ferrari were able to capitalise on that. Mercedes have kind of fixed those problems, so maybe Mercedes could throw in a bit of a curveball on Red Bull's plans, but we'll have to see about that. And I think Racing Point will be the 4th quickest team, potentially overhauling Ferrari if they have a really, really bad weekend. Racing Point could probably end up surprising a few people coming into the season, but I am a lot of people with this in saying that they are going to be strong at the start, but maybe not so strong at the end, because development will be quite slow on the car, because it is a direct copy of the W10, so it isn't going to involve much, and it'll be quite similar onto 2021. A few changes here and there, but I'm not expecting big things to come to the end of the season. But at the start of the season, I can see Racing Point ahead of the likes of McLaren and Renault. The big problem with McLaren though was they haven't had any testing in their current car, because Renault have been a bunch of quote from Gunter Steiner in Drive to Survive. by not allowing them to have a power unit. And you're probably thinking, all right, well, that's not a problem because they can go in their 2019 car or the 2018 car. Well, they can't because they haven't got a power unit. All right, let's go to the 2017 car. But they were powered by Honda then, so they can't because Honda aren't going to go, oh, by the way, yeah, we're going to supply you with a power unit so you can go around the track in the 2017 car. No. So they've been testing in a Formula 3 car. That will affect them. That will affect them a lot. And I think McLaren could, because they haven't run the car since testing, and they're not going to run the car until FP1. So expect a lot of things in FP1, and I would say not just in Austria, but in the next few races as well. So I think that the midfield is going to be as competitive as ever, definitely coming into this season, and it could be anyone's game. It could really be anybody's game. Lyle, who are you kind of thinking of who's going to be a main front runner in the midfield? Do you think Renault could solve their problems? Do you think maybe AlphaTauri, could they throw up a bit of a surprise and maybe offset the likes of McLaren and Racing Point? Or do you think that it's going to be a plain battle between McLaren? Do you think that they're going to be kicking off the same form again like they did in 2019? And do you think Racing Point, because they've got the W10 now essentially with like their own tweaks on it, and do you think that they're going to be, you know, one of the front runners to kind of pick up the best of the rest spots in the early part of the 2020 season?
I don't think that Racing Point are going to be as strong as everybody thinks. Yes, they have the W10 or, you know, components and things like that, but, you know, they are just a different team. Different drivers, not as good, of course, as Lewis and Valtteri, so they can't copy in everywhere. I don't think they're going to be the best midfield team. I can definitely see teams getting stronger. McLaren, they've got the drivers, they've got a good pace, but, you know, what happened in Brazil was just an incredible drive by Carlos Sainz, and of course, look at the end of the day that, you know, demoted Lewis Hamilton from the podium. Not saying though, you know, that Carlos Sainz didn't deserve it. I think it was back of the grid to 4th place. Mm-hmm. That was an insanely brilliant drive nonetheless, and of course it was an incredible when he got promoted to the podium. McLaren podium this year would be amazing to see, but I'm not going to say it's going to be consistent results from there. You know, good performances here and there. I'm expecting Carlos Sainz to be very strong this year because he's now just got the push that he is going to Ferrari next year. It's going to excel him so much. I think they'll be a strong team, but the best of the rest team that I'm sitting on right now, it is a hard one. I'm gonna say Renault's going to improve from last year, and they're going to get close to that 4th position. But I'm thinking the team's going to take it. It's going to be AlphaTauri. I mean, we don't know too much about what they're bringing. Of course, they are just revamped Toro Rosso Honda. But it does look like they have got a lot of good setup. They've got a brand new name. They've got a lot of brand new things within the team. They were showing a lot of improvement with that Honda engine. And I think also what Red Bull have been able to do with that Honda engine, it's also relayed back to Toro Rosso in a very, you know, positive way, because they've been able to capitalise on what Red Bull have also. There's a lot more investment in Honda now. There's a lot more money coming into Formula 1 now because of obviously what happened last year, like Verstappen's way in Austria, things like that really boosted up Honda in the world of Formula 1. And also the drivers that they have, you know, Pierre Gasly and Danny Kvyat, very strong drivers. We talked about Pierre Gasly the other day on Agree or Disagree. Very good driver, very, very strong. Definitely 2 great drivers who could get back to Red Bull one day. Pierre Gasly, very, very strong, harshly dropped by Red Bull. He's got a vengeance, he's got something to prove, as both of them do also. I think it's their team to really transform, Jordan. And if anything, they have a little bit of a golden seat at AlphaTauri, because they're there, and I don't think the team would think about replacing them that easily because of obviously what happened. I know they let Danny Kvyat go after 2017, because of obviously he wasn't a good driver. I think with Pierre it's a little bit different. I'm not saying that they'll hold him just because of, you know, Red Bull letting him go. They think, oh, we feel a bit bad, so we'll keep him. But I think that Pierre and Danny, both with vengeance, both they've been dropped by Red Bull. AlphaTauri will want to keep that. It'll also help them in the way of separating from Red Bull and becoming their brand new team. They have 2 Red Bull, don't take this the wrong way, but Red Bull rejects, but Red Bull drivers who, you know, they build themselves back up again. And I said that again in Agree or Disagree. I said that Pierre Gasly might want to get back to Red Bull one day, but it's like, you know, it really doesn't really, you know, it's not like I don't think it's his end goal right now. I think his goal right now is to transform AlphaTauri into a very, very strong team. I think they've got 4th place in the bag. I'm very happy with that. It will be an incredible season for Honda. I think probably one of their best seasons since you have to go back to like obviously the old McLaren Honda days. 2 Honda power units in the top 4, Red Bull and AlphaTauri. Obviously, I'm not saying where Red Bull are going to finish, most likely second, and obviously AlphaTauri 4. Sorry, obviously Ferrari in the middle of the Honda sandwich. I think could be a good result for them. So I'm going to say AlphaTauri for 4th place. McLaren, as I say, just inconsistent. Maybe a few good finishes, maybe a podium here and there. Renault, I can't see them getting on the podium. I am going to give a lot of support to Danny Rick though. Like, I want to see him get back to the podium. Esteban Ocon, I'm a very big fan of this driver. I'm not saying he'll get on the podium. I do believe Danny Ricciardo will be a stronger driver than Esteban, but he has got a massive future ahead of him at Renault, at that team. I can see him being at that team in part of this, Renault France progression into, a very good team in the past. Good engine supplier, obviously the championship team with Fernando Alonso left on bad terms. A few years of topsy-turvy, Nico Hulkenberg-esque, and then obviously now building them back up to a very strong team. Haas actually, I don't think we really talked about them when you were saying about your midfield teams, Jordan. Just because I'm not seeing much change out of the Haas garage. I just want to see some improvement in general from them. Obviously, 2 drivers who they have a lot to prove in Formula One. They are aging a bit. They have been in Formula 1 for a long time. They do have something to show. But the team, though, and they're not really midfield, but I think they could make a big splash this year. And the team, for me, I think are going to do very, very, very well. And when I say this, I mean, even if it's like a 6th place finish, it's very well for them. It's Alfa Romeo. Again, that's going off winter testing. They had an incredible car in winter testing. I don't mean incredible as in it was better than the Mercedes. I just mean incredible as in they were pushing the car and their drivers really to the limit. It was absolutely incredible. We also saw Robert Kubica, 3rd place tester for Alfa Romeo, also in that car. I was really impressed with what I saw from them. Obviously Williams, as always, pushing hard. George Russell, great driver. Nicholas Latifi, okay, same old, but obviously they're going to be at the back, Jordan. There's no real change in that. But anyways, yes, that's my midfield finish. AlphaTauri in 4th place. Wow. I'll probably come up with final standings. We'll probably post them on Twitter maybe later on or something like that. But I'm definitely going to say AlphaTauri in 4th because I've been very impressed with what they have been able to even show in winter testing as well. I remember they were a very consistent team, putting in some very, very strong laps, and the 2 drivers that they have are very, very good. I think they could have an incredible 2020 season. So Jordan, midfield, where do you want? I mean, of course you're a McLaren fan. Is Carlos Sainz going to get back on the podium? One last season before he goes to Ferrari?
Yeah.
Can Lando get on the podium? Or is McLaren just going to crash and burn like they did with Fernando Alonso and the all that painful time with the certain Spaniard? So what is going to happen? Where's McLaren going to finish? And what is your midfield looking like?
Well, I kind of alluded it on that when I said about Racing Point being kind of like the front runners essentially, but McLaren is going to be. I don't really know if I'm totally honest, because I know that like the car does seem good and people are like praising it quite highly. It does look nice. Livery looks nice with the matte finish and stuff, which is supposed to make the car even lighter than what it already is. Matte paint compared to gloss paint. Little fact there for you, in case you didn't know. Paint fact of the day on the F1 debate show. Who knew? But I think not being in the car for that long will. To be fair, I think I have said this before, and I've been criticised for saying this apparently, but driving an F1 car is like riding a bike. You don't forget, which is it's easy for us to say, but for F1 drivers, it's the same kind of concept. You know what I mean? Like if you think that you've been away from driving that car for like 3-4 months, you've probably done simulator work, but drivers say it's nowhere near as accurate as what it is driving in real life, of course. So going into the car for the first time in FP1, you're going to be rusty. You're going to need to understand how the car reacts and how the car works and where is the best performance from the car and what the right setup is. And I think, like I said, there'll be a lot of laps in a FP1 and FP2 and possibly FP3 for McLaren to really understand the car, which I think could set them back just a little bit. But that's just what I'm saying. I'm hoping Carlos Sainz can get another podium, but I do believe that we do need another kind of like I don't know, like a Red Bull and a Ferrari dropping out possibly, or having a bit of a collision up ahead, or a safety car, or a late twist in the strategy. I don't know, just like McLaren won't win it on pure pace. It'll just have to be on strategy or some sort of unscheduled safety car or something like that. So that's how it's going to be. But I think for me, Carlos Sainz has got every right to get on that podium. Lando Norris, I don't think he'll get there on pure skill, but if there is a chance, I think it will be, like I said before, about the whole safety car situation as well. I was gonna like talk about Haas in a bit as well, and of course Williams, because I'm kind of putting them in the back markers bracket. Now, again, if you Haas fans are like, well, really, after one season? Yes, after one season, I'm putting your team in the back of the field kind of teams, which, because in testing didn't do many mileage. I think they did the least amount of laps out of everybody, which, although times aren't crucial, don't really look in the times. I always say look into the laps. How many laps are they doing? Because the more laps you do, the better you understand the car, the more data you have, and then the more you can kind of develop your car and improve it from then onto the first race. Now, of course, there has been quite some time since testing and now, so of course Haas maybe have that kind of look overshadowing them, so that they've got more time to understand what went wrong in testing, compared to like it was only going to be like a couple of weeks between then and Australia, but now it's been a few months. So maybe Haas aren't really that much on the back foot, but they didn't have a lot coming out of testing. Like K-Mac had that big shunt and reliability problems, and it just didn't look that good from Haas. Like Haas didn't, for me, apart from the livery looked really nice. I do like the Haas livery, but apart from that, I'm not looking at Haas like a, I could see you as being the 2018 kind of Haas again, when they were, having good performances and, getting into Q3s and pushing for points and stuff like that. So they're not really striking me as that, but I think the team that everyone's going to be keeping an eye on is Williams. Now, of course, Williams have been in the media again about possibly the team selling part of the team or potentially all of the team altogether. Rocket pulled out the sponsorships, losing $13-14 million of profit in the first quarter of this year, and it's been a bleak overshadow on the team. But good news though is that they have announced that they do have funding into the 2021 season, so they are going to be here. They are going to be here for at least 2020 in 2021. So that's some positive news to take from this. But I mean, Williams did look better in testing. I think they did more laps on the first day of testing than they did throughout the entire of the 2019 test, because they missed 2.5 days of it. So that was positive. They turned up on time. I think they were the first car to go on track. I think they were.
I think George Russell was waiting. I think it was both days actually. Both tests. So day 1 and day 5. I think I said this in the stream. Yeah, George Russell was actually sitting at the green light. So I think that was done on purpose to by Claire Williams to say this is we were late last time. This is us being on time this time.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a statement of what, we have progressed, we have got forward, we are better, and here we are ready to show ourselves that we aren't going to be filling back in the midfield. But of course they are going to be releasing their new livery. Looks nice, by the way. We haven't seen it yet, but it looks nice, very nice. Predicting blue and white and stuff like that, it's going to be quite nice. So Lavazza, I love a coffee. So Williams are going to be my team for this season. Balls to McLaren, Williams. I like coffee, it's amazing. But are Williams going to be progressing any further, and could they potentially overtake Haas? Now, this is something that was really spoken about in pre-season testing, and something that I think raised a few eyebrows, and maybe were like, no, that's a bit too strong, and some were like, yeah, potentially that could actually happen. So let's discuss the kind of the back markers essentially, Lyle, in between Haas and Williams. Do you think Williams could potentially overtake Haas and finish ahead of Haas in the 2020 standings?
Well, firstly, Jordan, I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't like coffee, so I don't know if Williams will be my team like they will be yours. But I like your logic around it. Say that I like the colour of something, so they're my team. Williams will. Just a strange team. They really, really are. I mean, George Russell obviously is the hype of the nation. Going to get a Mercedes one day and all that stuff. He's a good driver, but of course, it's driving a Williams. I don't think he'll be able to improve this year. I'd like to think that he will get a point. Obviously, beaten last year, we didn't get a point. Obviously, beaten by Robert Kubica's teammate, where Robert scored that in a little bit of a kind of pushy shovey. Obviously in Germany. George, he'll get. I think he'll get the best of what he can get out of the car, and there's no doubt you can say that he's not performing 110% of like him. I think all the time he's given what he wants in that car. I mean, it was 21-0 from him to Robert last year in qualifying. So the proof is in the pudding there. It's obviously unfortunate he didn't get a point like his Polish counterpart did. Nicholas Latifi as well, good driver, Formula 2 driver, a little bit older. I don't know why, but I always think like Nicholas Latifi is incredibly old. He's not, but he's not the youngest gun that we'd expect to be in that Williams seat. Again, talk about him a lot. The stigma like Lance Stroll did. About his dad buying the seat. Sorry. Of course, having a big investment in the team, as John said there, the coffee company that Michael Latifi owns. That's stigma in itself, but I hope that they both do very well. George, I'm thinking will do better than Nicholas, but as I say, only a few points in it. In terms of against Haas, Haas don't seem to me to be a team at the back. And I do think that you're exactly right there, Jordan. That will be 9th and 10th. Alfa Romeo will not finish, either last place or 9th place. I'm not even thinking that they'll finish in 8th place. I'm thinking for them, I'm thinking a good 6th place could come out of this. 6th, possibly 7th. I mean, of course, that's the only team out of, if Haas and Williams stay where we said. But I think if Alfa could target a 6th place, that would be incredible for them. I'm not saying he'll be in 7th, but I'm thinking that Haas will finish ahead of Williams, just by the fact of, they are more of an independent team, obviously less financial problems. We haven't heard anything from them that they were in financial problems. Yes, they lost Rich Energy last season, and they lost a lot of money from that, but it doesn't seem to really have affected them. 2 good drivers, obviously Gunter Steiner, the man of Netflix, is still in charge of the team.
Everyone's favourite team principal.
But it does seem though that they are still in that fight. An independent team, an American team, loved team as well. 2 good drivers, a lot of experience, obviously a lot more than Nicholas and George have in Formula 1. And I think the Haas will finish ahead of Williams. Not saying that they'll have the best season, but I think it will be good. I think it'll be strong. And if anything, actually, I'm going to go out and say that as strong, if not better, than 2019 for Haas. 2019 started out abysmal for Haas, and Roman Grosjean got to the point where I think it was Abu Dhabi. He said on the parade, he said, "I just want this season to end. I really don't. Just get it out there." And it might feel a little bit like he was just driving that car as a procession and he wasn't very happy. But I think he still had a lot of belief that Haas car could go somewhere. Also, Kevin Magnussen as well. There's been a lot of fighting between them about who's going to be the team leader, who's going to be in charge. I think this year it has swung round to Magnussen, and if anything, I'm actually going to say that I think Kevin Magnussen is the team leader at Haas, which of course is a massive change because Roman has been there since the start, all the way back in 2016. They've reverted back to the old 2016 style colours of Haas, of course, the light grey kind of colours. It might show a little bit of redemption as obviously we've ditched the rich energy colours, the black and gold. We've ditched the dark night maybe in Formula 1, and we've gone back to the normal humble beginnings of Haas. Of course, we all remember in 2016, Australia and Bahrain, they had incredible results. Roman Grosjean, I think it was 7th place, best finish for a new constructor since Toyota back in 2002. Incredible for them. So I'm thinking Haas will finish better than Williams. I'm hoping that they can crack a few points, maybe 4 or 5. George, obviously ahead of Nicholas. Unfortunately, Nicholas Latifi will finish in last place. That's not to say that he's not a good driver, and it's like last year when we said, whoever finishes last place for Williams, it's not like saying they're the worst driver in Formula 1. Obviously, it was George actually who finished in last place. Robert obviously finished in 19th, and we were saying now that George is better than Robert. It's not to say that Nicholas isn't a good driver. I do think he is good. I think he'll be good with Williams. I can see a good long-term partnership with them, especially if Michael Latifi stays in the team, keeps pumping out the money, and of course Lavazza will sponsor the team, taking over from Rocket. That'll basically, hammer the nail in and say that he's in there to stay, a little bit like Lawrence Stroll is at Racing Point. So that's it. I think Williams will be in 10th place, John, and I don't think Haas will. Sorry, I do think Haas will beat them. I don't think Williams will be able to beat the American team. So what do you think? I mean, Haas last year, disappointing team, but they are different. They are different to Williams. Yeah. More independent team, stronger, less financial trouble. 2 good drivers, and of course, obviously, frequently hit the spotlight. So what do you make on those 2 last place teams?
I think I agree with you in the sense that Haas will be finishing ahead of Williams. I do think that. However, I think Williams will be stronger at the start. I think Williams will look quicker at the start than Haas. But as the season goes on, I think Williams may fall behind in development, and I think Haas will progress and go forward. And or maybe they have, like I said earlier, maybe they have sorted out their problems, but we don't know that. We don't know until the cars hit the track. So I think that Williams will be ahead for now until, I don't know, maybe after the first 8 races, and then wherever else we go, that's when Williams and Haas can push on with development and overtake Williams in that sense. I think Williams will be looking for a good season, like a better. Oh, you can't get any worse than last year, surely. I'm not thinking like they're going to be pushing for like in the midfield. Like that's how quickly the development is. It's not that. It will never be that unless they progress on, they stay in Formula One, they do the right things, employ the right people, and then they push forward. Because at the moment Williams is at the lowest it's ever been. So they need a positive season to kind of lift spirits and lift belief that they can go forward. And in doing so, that could potentially interest a few investors and maybe go, okay, then you know what, I see potential in this. If Claire Williams has like put like the project on the table, going right, okay, what we've done in the past, we've tried it, it's been a mistake, we've ditched it. This is the new plan. So if Williams need the results, and if they can deliver them, like I said, it could bring in some really good sponsors, some good financial backing, and hopefully secure the team's future and potentially move them up the grid. And we know that George Russell isn't going to be there forever. He's going to be moving on to probably Mercedes next, but hey, there's rumours he could be going to Aston Martin if Mercedes have decided it's too early still, so we'll have to see about that. But they've got a really good driver in George Russell, and if they didn't have George Russell, I wouldn't be optimistic for Williams one bit. But what I will say though is, if you want to call this a bold prediction, then I'll let you decide. But I'm gonna say that Williams will score points this season, more points than they did last year, which is 1, of course. They will score a decent amount of points, nothing amazing, but a decent amount. I would say over 10 points, and I think both drivers will score points. Russell more than Latifi, but I do think that both drivers will score points in 2020. Haas, on the other hand, they need a driver lineup change. Alright, it's more secure keeping both drivers because they know the team, there's no settling in, they can just kind of, just go forward. But in going forward, you do need a change of drivers. I think they are keeping Grosjean because he is good at giving car feedback, which is what Haas desperately needed. They did pick up a bit of good form towards the end, which was down to Grosjean, so that was good. K-Mag, he's a very quick driver. He's quicker than Grosjean in my opinion. So of course, Haas need him, but I think there is time to maybe employ somebody else and get an experienced driver in. Maybe like a Bottas would be a really good option. Financially, is it right for them? We'll have to wait and see, but I think that's what a driver like Bottas, or even somebody else for that matter, could be really, really good for Haas going forward. But yeah, I think it's going to be very, very interesting. So the final point we're going to be discussing on like our kind of 2020 season preview thing is we're going to be pretty much saying who we think has a point to prove in 2020. So yes, it's been a long time since we haven't had a race, and of course, I think it's like over 200 days now, and different calendar, so tracks are going to be different for different cars. We could be going to tracks that we haven't been to in a number of years, or we've never been to ever before, so that's going to be interesting. So we don't know how the cars are going to perform or react on that type of track. But who do we think has got a big point to prove this season? Which driver do we think needs to establish themselves and go, you know what, I'm the pushover, I'm here to perform, I'm here for the future, for the long haul, I am a good driver and I deserve to be in Formula 1. Lyle, out of all the drivers on the grid, who do you think has got a point to prove in 2020, and that you think will deliver and put themselves out there and go, yes, I am a good driver. You critics are proving me. I'm going to prove the critics heavily wrong.
Pierre Gasly. He's my top one for sure. Now, it's not really the media. I think it's more... Well, actually, no, it is the media. The thing for me that Pierre Gasly was, when he was demoted from Red Bull, I mean, again, I know you can't swear by this. It's a little bit like, referencing something that's just not right. There is the Netflix Drive to Survive. If you watch that and you've watched the interviews with Christian Horner and them talking about why they demoted Pierre Gasly, it just sounded ridiculous to anyone else that'd think that Pierre Gasly was the worst driver in existence, when of course he absolutely wasn't. Again, like I've just said there with AlphaTauri, I do think that they are going to have a very strong season. He is going to be at the front beating Danny Kvyat. Of course, again, Danny is a very strong driver, but he has been in Formula 1 a little bit longer time than him. I do think it's a good pairing though. I'm not saying that, Danny should be out there. I'm just saying I think Pierre is amazing. Much better driver than, of course, as I say, Danny Kvyat. Much better driver than most people on the grid. Is as good as Alexander Albon. Again, we had this question in agree or disagree. It was a very, very, very close call. I think he's found a great team, for Pierre Gasly, to really push to the top, which of course is AlphaTauri. He's my definite one to watch. I think out of all of them, I think I would put him at the top. I've got his merchandise already, so I'm kind of sorted in that way. But I'm like, I'm a massive fan of him. He's number one for sure. Danny Kvyat, I'm behind him for sure. I'm going to say Antonio Giovinazzi as well from Alfa Romeo. Again, we've talked about him in agree or disagree. Definitely wants to stay in Formula 1 now. The main thing about him is I think maybe he believed that he was going to go to Ferrari, and if anything, the only option for Gio was to go to Ferrari. Of course, now that unfortunately has closed for him, it's Carlos Sainz, and it looks like, of course, Carlos and Charles will be staying at that team for a number of years, and Gio won't get his chance. But that being said though, I know this might be more of a parallel move, or if anything, actually a move back. We've just been talking about them. Maybe Haas Ferrari, maybe that's an option for Gio. But of course, if he wants to stay in Formula 1, he needs to prove now, because the Ferrari door is shut, that he can drive, not just for the chance to possibly get to Ferrari, but just that he deserves to be in Formula 1. It's a little bit like George Russell in that way. We all say George is going to go to Mercedes. What happens if that Mercedes door shuts? Is he versatile? Is he, has he got his feelers out for other teams? It's a little bit like Gio. He was focusing on Ferrari, but now that a Ferrari door's closed, is he another option for other teams out there? That's what he needs to prove. So I'm going to lock in definitely those three in that order. Obviously Pierre Gasly at the top, Kvyat and Gio. Anyone else, of course, from the top teams, I guess you could say Charles Leclerc, of course. Is he the leader at Ferrari? Looking very much like that. What can he do this year? And also, what can Seb do? I'll be noticing that, but mainly, what can Charles do against Seb? Last season of Sebastian, it's an all or nothing thing. Can he still contain him in wins, in poles, in points? Can he have the better of his Ferrari counterpart and head into 2021 with a new teammate, Carlos Sainz, and go, I am not just a good driver at Ferrari, but the king of Ferrari, I don't know what they call him, like the Emperelli or something. The man, the leader of Ferrari, the best driver that Ferrari have seen in a very, very, very long time. All you need is just to look back at Monza. All you need is to look back at that amazing drive he did in Belgium in the wake of obviously his friend. And the amazing pole positions he got 4 in a row. Absolutely incredible. So Charles Leclerc definitely has something to prove there. He has proved a lot of people, but there's a lot of doubters saying that he can't deliver in that way. But I think that he has got a massive chance of doing that. Also as well, Alexander Albon, can he perform? Can he beat Pierre Gasly's records? Can he perform as good as Verstappen? Can he show that he is good enough to stay in that team? Of course, he had a pressure of trading places. But definitely, Jordan, I'm going to say that Pierre Gasly is definitely my top driver to watch, along with people like Antonio Giovinazzi, and of course from the top team is Charles Leclerc. So yeah, final thing, who are your drivers to watch? Maybe like someone from the midfield team and maybe someone from the front team as well, who can only push out into the future. Who are your ones to watch for this year?
Well, I would say my main one to watch, and the guy that does need to prove a lot of people wrong, is Esteban Ocon. He's had a year away from Formula 1. When he was in Formula 1, he was heavily tipped to be, like the next world champion. He had an alright junior record. He was part of the Mercedes program. He went into Force India at the time, and then of course changed to Racing Point. He got beaten by Perez. Had some really good battles with Perez, but ultimately Perez's experience and his speed got the better over his younger French teammate. And then, of course, Lawrence Stroll bought Force India, rebranded them as Racing Point, and of course, for 2019, as we all know, Lance Stroll was put in that seat to replace Esteban Ocon. He had a year on the sidelines. Now, over that year, he would have learned quite a bit. I would have thought. I think it did. Daniel Kvyat a world of good. Going to Ferrari as like a simulator driver for a year. He came back and certainly looked like a much better driver than what he did when he left in 2017. So I think a year out. It is a long time in Formula 1, so there will be a few things he might have, maybe not forgotten, but maybe not remembered, or I don't know, I'm just blabbering about rubbish because I've never driven a Formula One car, so I don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like maybe that's some of the things that he did do back in the day he doesn't do now or whatever. I'm not too sure. But
crashing in Verstappen.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I
that.
mean? Like you had that incident with Verstappen, that was big news, whatever. And a lot of people were like, he's bang average. I don't see him as a good driver anymore. And does he deserve to be in Formula One?
I think a lot of the just as quick. I think a lot of the that's the thing. Just that one incident. I remember we talk about a lot on this channel because that's the thing. Everyone rated Verstappen as God, and if you crash into God, then you are going to be hated. And I think that's one of the things, Jordan, that I noticed from 2018. 2018. That when that happened, as soon as Ocon crashes into Verstappen, Verstappen is right. Ocon is wrong. Verstappen is right. What Verstappen did, in Parc Fermé, pushing Ocon was incredibly, he's fine to do that. And Ocon is blacklisted, not just from the Orange Army, but everyone in Formula One because Verstappen is good, or at least that was a thought anyway back then. So I know what you mean when you say stuff like
exactly,
that.
Yeah, exactly. So. And of course, not only that, you've got the Mercedes seat to think about as well, because that could potentially open up for Ocon should they decide that Russell isn't ready. Who else have you got waiting in the wings? Vettel potentially, but I can't see Vettel going to Mercedes for as long as Hamilton's there. So maybe Vettel could have made up his mind by then, could be signed for another team or even retired. Then I think Ocon, then the seat opens up for potentially Esteban Ocon. So if he he's got a season with Renault at a French team, that would be really good. If he beats Daniel Ricciardo, I think he will gain I think he'll gain a lot of respect and go, you know what, that was a decent job, mate. You performed well. You beat Ricciardo, a good driver, in the same car. Then people could say, well, maybe Ricciardo, he fell out of love with Renault. He didn't perform as well as what he wanted to. He wanted to go to McLaren sooner or whatever. But I think if he beats Ricciardo, I think you got to go, GG, mate, that was pretty impressive what you just did. So, and then that could open up speculation about him going to Mercedes. But of course, he doesn't need to do that just in 2020. He needs to do it. He needs to do it in 2021 as well, and keep that form up to prove to Mercedes that he's not just a one-season wonder. So Ocon for me is a big one, who I think can deliver. I don't think for me he's not like the best driver. He's not like the next best thing, but he is a decent driver. He's worthy of Formula One, definitely. So I think he's got all the potential to go on and do good things potentially in Formula One. Other drivers, I don't think he might, but I think a driver that does need to prove a lot of people wrong is Lance Stroll, just to prove that I'm not here because of my dad, I'm here because I'm worthy to be in the racing point. So they've got a big future ahead of them. They're going to have a lot of investment going into the team. They've got new factories. Of course, Lawrence Stroll is pumping in a lot of money. Aston Martin name coming into it as well. There's a big future for them. And if Stroll isn't putting in the performances to progress Racing Point as well, Aston Martin, what they'll be called then, forward to the top, then of course Lawrence Stroll will have to replace him with somebody surely. But if Stroll can prove to his dad and others that he is worthy of that seat, he can match Perez, beat Perez, bit of a far-fetch, but hey, let's see how it goes. At least match Perez, maximum match Perez. If he can do that, he will gain a lot of respect and go, yeah, all right, Stroll had a good season. But again, like Ocon, you've got to do it not just in one season, but in various others. You've got to be consistent, and especially if you're at the top, consistency is key. Others, Latifi perhaps, because he's been in Formula 2 for quite some years. What was it, 4 or 5 years now? Doubters as well about, oh yeah, he's there. Michael Latifi paid Williams $30 million for his seat. Is he just another paid driver? Yeah, potentially he's a one. Lando Norris, a lot of doubted him, overrated driver. No, he's just a meme, and we have discussed this before in the channel. I think he's the one to throw in there. Out of the top, I think Albon is a one as well. Albon, who, again, like Verstappen, is against Verstappen. That's no easy task. He might be compared to Gasly. How will he do compared to Gasly against Verstappen? Will he be closer to Verstappen than what Gasly was? So I think Albon as well. I don't think he'll match Verstappen. But if he can kind of get ahead of at least one Ferrari, I think that's a job. That is, for me, a job well done in my eyes, especially for a guy who is just coming into his second season in Formula One. So there's a lot of things to digest from that. Of course, there was. We discussed more or less all of every team. Then, of course, some drivers that we think do have a point to prove. Lau thinks it's Pierre Gasly, and I'm saying Esteban Ocon. And of course, let us know anything that we've said, of course, your opinions about teams, drivers, where do you think that they're going to be coming into the season with this long, 3-4 month break that we've had, and of course with the tracks coming up, who do you think will be doing well at what track? Of course, your drivers who you think will be who will have a point of proof, of course, and of course leave your other opinions in the comment section below. But guys, this is where we're going to wrap up the episode. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Tomorrow, we've got a busy day tomorrow, actually. Not one, but 2 videos coming your way tomorrow. We've got the F1 Online Decoder, the penultimate episode for Season 2 with Tomo F1. Really, really looking forward for you guys to listen to that. That's going to be a really good one. Of course, Tomo, one of the most popular guys on F1 YouTube. He came, sat down, chat to us on the other end of the mic for a change. So really, really good chat with Tomo as well. It was brilliant just to sit down and digest everything with him. Then after that, we'll be announcing what we're going to be doing in the F1 2020 season. What videos have we got coming out? What are we dropping? There's a few things that we're dropping from the schedule, so see what those are. And of course, more information about the ever-loved Prediction League. It will be coming your way tomorrow, so stay tuned for those 2 videos as well. And of course, next week, on Monday, in a couple of days' time now, is going to be our first race week of the season. That's going to be very interesting. That is beautiful to say. That is really, really good to say. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you are new around here, then please like and subscribe as well. Like I said, comment below about anything that we've said in today's episode. Watch what you're doing. Stay safe as always. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.